If you're anything like me, sometimes the talk of financial planning can cause you stress and anxiety, which is maybe why I put this conversation off for so long. I promise you, though, today's guest will have you feeling anything but stressed. Money expert and money guru for CTV's The Social and author of the book Happy Go Money, Spend Smart, Save Right, and Enjoy Life, Melissa Leong is here today to help us all feel more at ease when it comes to our finances and the future. How should we be spending and saving our money at this stage of life? What if we've never saved until now? What's the rule about how much we should be putting away versus spending, and how does that change based off our age? Should husbands and wives have separate finances, and what happens if one person works and the other stays home with the kids? Melissa also lets us in on what happy people spend 40% of their money on. You guys are going to love her, I promise. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Melissa Leong. Okay, well, welcome to the podcast. Today I have Melissa Leong, and I'm so excited to have her here. I was just saying, this is one of those topics, money, that I was kind of resisting to have on as an episode. I don't really honestly know why, but I feel like I've been following her, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to finally have someone on that I think is going to bring a really fresh perspective to us. She is the money expert and money guru for CTV's The Social. And she is also the author of the book, Happy Go Money, Spend Smart, Save Right, and Enjoy Life. Welcome to the podcast, Melissa. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And you know what? No judgment, no shame. I know why you were reluctant to have anyone on to talk about money.
Tell me why. You're going to tell me to start budgeting my money?
No, money is a topic that we feel uncomfortable with. It's stressful. It can be overwhelming. And it's not just because it's dollars and cents. It's attached to so many things, right? We equate it with our personalities, our identity, our pride, our vanity, our sense of self-worth. And so it is a hot topic. And I'm just grateful that we're going to talk about it because we should talk about it more.
How did you find yourself in this position?
Did
you always love numbers?
Oh my gosh, no. Math is my is the bane of my existence growing up. And it's not about that.
Really?
I became the personal finance reporter for the Financial Post, which is a national newspaper based in Canada. And I was intimidated by that post because I had written about many things before that. But what I found was that personal finance is about life. When I talked to people about their money, I realized I was talking to people about their journey, their lives, their milestones, their dreams, their goals, wanting to get married, wanting to have children, wanting to build a life that was fulfilling and meaningful, and having life after work, retirement, options, opportunities. And if I can help anyone feel a little bit better about their money, it just makes their life better. I can find no other way to make people happier than to get people more comfortable with the idea of their finances and how to manage it in a way that gives meaning to their lives.
Yeah, because I feel like, especially with the introduction of social media and even just walking into your bank, it is overwhelming for somebody who has, never done math or never even had an interest. And you hear about stocks and this, and the commercials are just bombarding you. And it's like nobody wants to take a risk and lose all their money. So instead, they just do nothing. They just kind of throw their hands up. But I was thinking, is it kind of like when you look at a closet that is purging and you can't even close the door and you keep walking by it saying, this weekend I'm going to clean out the closet, and you kind of procrastinate, and then you finally take 3-4 hours, you do it looks like a bomb, then you put it all back in nicely, and every time you walk by you open the door just so you can stand there and admire it. Is that kind of how we should look at our financial portfolio? Can we all relate to it? Because I feel like we can all relate to a messy closet.
I get the idea of anything around the house which seems like a nightmare and just wanting to turn away. That's a very human thing, to be overwhelmed by something, to be intimidated by something, to feel anxiety. And what do? I think a natural thing to do in terms of survival is to, walk away from the thing that makes us uncomfortable. However, I think of finances as like, it's more than numbers and cents. It's more than arranging a closet, because it is tied to who you are. It is tied to habits and behaviors and thoughts. And so if you clean your closet once, that's not really going to help you in the long run, right? You have to look at it as a sense of, okay, how do I feel about approaching my closet? How can I make approaching my closet and that crazy mess a little bit less stressful? Can I create a system in the beginning where I organize it and get all the best, hangers and cubby holes and whatnot, so that every single time I pass it, I just do a little bit. I do a little bit. And it's a little bit easier. You're not going to do it all in one go, but I promise anyone listening, if you just turn on the lights and try to attack your closet, it won't be as scary as you think. And I'm talking about money, obviously.
You're not talking about the closet. Yeah. I would rather purge 10 closets than try to organize my budgeting and do all that stuff. I don't know. My mind just doesn't work like that in the budgets. I think definitely I fall under that whole, the girl math. I don't know.
Girl math is awesome, by the way. Girl math we should
awesome.
not be knocking
I was going to ask you
girl
how you
math.
felt about that.
Girl math is just...
Okay, so tell everybody what girl math is.
Okay, it's this massive trend which has hundreds of millions of views on social media. And it's just a way of justifying your purchases or justifying the way that you manage your money, which, I'm sorry, that's what everyone does. Everyone in their brain, before they make any kind of financial decision, their little voices tell the lawyers in your brain, you have a little argument about why this is important to you and what this means to you and why it's a need versus a want and blah, blah, blah. And girl math is just putting that out there so that we can all kind of laugh about it and talk about it. So if I buy this jacket that I'm wearing and it's $100 and I'm going to wear it, I don't know, 5 times, then it's $20 a wear. Great, done. # girl math. So it's just a fun way to have more of us talk about why we buy what we buy.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was saying this to you when I had emailed you. My generation, I feel like we didn't grow up talking about finances. We certainly aren't learning about it in school unless you went to post-secondary school for some sort of finance degree. But we didn't talk about how much. It was I remember asking how much does dad make? How much do you make, mom? And it was just those were just things you just didn't talk about. It was just kind of taboo, where I feel or is it more acceptable for people to talk about money and their spending and savings and all of that now? Are you seeing that people are more comfortable talking about it?
I think that's where the social media aspect comes in with # girl math, # soft saving, #,
What is soft saving?
Soft saving is the idea of, we have a lot on our plates. It's kind of the opposite of hustle culture, which is what was prevalent in the previous decade. It's the idea of more balance. So young people are feeling a little bit maybe disenfranchised, maybe discouraged. A lot of their goals seem very far away. Home ownership is so expensive and they're graduating with so much student debt or whatever it is, the pressures, right? And soft saving is the idea of, I'm not going to go all in and trying to save and kill myself here and make all the sacrifices. I'm looking for more balance. I'm looking for saving a little bit, a little bit, being a little more relaxed about it. And I mean, there's pros.
Living in the moment.
Yeah,
more.
Sure. But there's pros and cons to that, obviously. Too much soft saving means you're not going to be putting enough for your retirement, for your future, for emergencies, for lots of things. So,
yeah.
Sorry, you were talking about taboo. That's what we were talking about. Is it more taboo?
Oh, taboo.
And the idea, I really relate to that. And if this is not something that, if listeners are thinking, we really actually don't talk about finances very often amongst our friend group, amongst our family members, you can change that. You can change that today. You can go upstairs and ask your kids, hey, how much money do you think I make? And how much money do you think it costs to pay for this house? How much do you think our mortgages? How much would you pay to spend a whole day just weeding the lawn for me? And just playing with ideas of, hypothetical questions. You don't have to ask someone how much money they make. You can ask a friend, oh my gosh, if you had $1 million, but you only had 24 hours to spend it, what would you spend it on? These kinds of open-ended questions are just meant to, elicit conversation, but also delve more into what you believe, what your values are around money and what your partner's values are around money. I think it's fun. And it's a lot less stressful than trying to dive into, let's talk about budgeting, you know?
Your book, I listened to the audio version, and I'm so glad I did, because you read it in such a fun, theatrical way. It really did keep my interest. Like, I wasn't like, oh, boring numbers, like, oh, budgeting. I was very much intrigued to listen to what you were saying, just because of like the tone of your voice and how you read it. So I would encourage anybody who's going to get your book. I don't know. I really loved the Audible version.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I thought it was great. Okay, so speaking of social media and the keeping up with the Joneses, which is nothing new, right? People have been keeping up with the Joneses forever.
Yes.
But that used to literally just be the Joneses who physically lived on the street from you, or maybe another mom at school. But with the introduction of TikTok and Instagram, it is just always in your face how much everybody else has and how much you do not have, according to the internet. I mean, what have you seen just in terms of people's desire to have or to spend?
So before, it used to be your neighbors, and that I mean, as human beings, we look at our peers to gauge how we should be living our life and what's normal and what's acceptable, and that's normal. And it hasn't always served us. So, for example, there's this fascinating research around lottery winners and their neighbors. And so, if you live next to a lottery winner, you are more likely than the average person to go bankrupt, because you are seeing outside your neighbor is spending on visible assets like renovations, like a new car, like whatever it is. And you're unconsciously absorbing a new benchmark, and you're going to spend more money. And that's kind of what's happened. And there is research that shows that people who spend more time on social media, they're more susceptible to impulse buying. Because think about this. We're thinking of, what we absorb through social media as this active thing. We're like, nope, swipe, not interested, gonna watch this video, not gonna watch this. Yeah. But so much of that is unconscious. And that is a normal thing. If you're constantly exposed to buying opportunities, that is going to increase the likelihood of you feeling pressure to keep up with the lifestyle of those that you were seeing. And this is a curation, remember. So all of your favorite influencers are showing you what they're buying, where they're traveling, what they're eating. And a constant flow of this is going to make you think that more people are doing this, when the truth is, when you look outside, no, people are struggling. People are having trouble keeping up with inflation, many, many things. But yeah, that's, I mean,
according to my Instagram right now, everybody is currently in Europe with their families on these fabulous. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's there. But again, it's like you see 5 people you follow who are there, and you're like, well, everybody's in Europe but me. Here I am, just at home.
You really have to actively curate. And so after the pandemic, I did find myself buying a lot of things. I thought that I was supporting local businesses and sending things to my loved ones to show them that I was still connected to them, but I was trying to gain a sense of control. And I was lost in doom scrolling, and I really was buying whatever my favorite influencer was telling me to get, because I was looking for this, I was chasing this feeling. And so after the pandemic, I actively went through, it's an algorithm, right? So I actually actively went through my feed and just started choosing what I thought was best for me, for my health, for my financial health and my mental health. And my feed looks vastly different today. And it really has helped with the buying things that were not part of a larger plan.
That you never woke up in the morning and thought, you know what I really need? And then you picked up your phone. But it's almost like, and I think you touch on this in your book, something about online shopping versus walking into a mall and buying something. It's like you get that hit of dopamine for a split second, and you're like, oh, I feel better now.
Oh, retail therapy is so a thing. I mean, if you think about...
And then you put your phone down, and then the box arrives, and you're like, why did I think I needed this? Like, I'm returning that. I don't know what I thought I was going to look good in this for. I don't look anything like this girl who was modeling it on Instagram.
Sure. In the moment, you do, absolutely. When you buy something new, even in a mall, when you walk around, the more time you spend in a mall, the more you buy, right? So this is according to research. The more time you spend in a store, the more likely you're going to spend more money. That's obviously that's not a surprise. But obviously, the more that you make it, you make that transaction what do they call it? The industry calls it frictionless transactions. They want you to just tap.
What is that?
They want you to spend your money as easily as
Oh,
possible. That's why you have one-click buy,
wow.
because your brain actually needs time to process the long-term repercussions of your actions. And if you tap something out of impulse, you're actually not using the time you need to think about, okay, I'm going to tap this. It's going to about $50. How much should I spend making that $50? Should I spend that $50 elsewhere? Because study shows if you use that language, should I spend this elsewhere? Should I buy this food on Uber Eats because I'm exhausted and I don't want to cook tonight because I've had a long day? Or should I spend that $100 on X, on these 5 values that I have written down that are more important to me, like spending on connecting with family, or saving for travel, or saving for emergencies, or saving for my retirement, because that seems like so far away, yet around the corner.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you do need that time. And so I have a 24-hour waiting period before I buy things. I'll just leave it in my shopping cart. I will text my friends. I have a WhatsApp group where I just send them links. My girlfriends send me links too. They're like, should I buy this? And we just generally say, no, I don't think you need that. And also my children have the exact same thing. They have take a photo. They call it take a photo with your phone. So we go shopping, we go to the mall, we go grocery shopping. And all my kids say is, Mom, can you take a photo of this? Mom, can you take a photo of this? Because they see something and they want it, but they know that I will say, you know what? We need some time to think about it. So how about we take a photo of it on my phone? And then later on, when you go home, you can look at it. You could decide. We could do some research, see if we could buy it somewhere cheaper. But you know what? 99.9% of the time, they have forgotten about that photo. I should show you my camera roll, Jen. It is filled
it's full
with
of photos
of toys and chips and candy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well,
we
I
never
do that a
visit
lot
again.
on the Amazon app. I'll do like the save for later.
Oh,
because
yes.
I think I like it, but I'm not 100% committed.
Yep.
And honestly, probably 9 out of the 10 things I save for later, I never end up buying.
Yeah, it's
So-
impulse. It's not part of it. I mean, I used to have when my finances were a lot simpler. I used to have a spending account, which was a separate bank account that I would siphon money off from. So I'd pay all my bills. I'd pay for my goals. We'd have money in a retirement plan and all these things, and then I would siphon. I want this amount of money every week in this fun account associated with this no-fee bank card. And if there was money in it, I would just spend it on anything I wanted. I would just take my friends out. Say, hey, what are you guys doing today? I'm buying you all coffee. Let's go. Because there's money in my spending account and I want to spend it.
Right. Do you promote that? Is that something that you think we should be doing?
Yes, I do.
Having our spending account.
I think that the spending account is the result.
This is why I like you. You're not like just save everything and have no fun. You're like,
that's
of course,
not reality.
That sounds like a fun idea.
It's not sustainable. That's like telling someone, you know what, you're going to go on this special health kick, but you're only going to eat cabbage. It's not sustainable.
Yes,
so you do need to
it's not
build in
sustainable.
things for life. And there's going to have seasons, right? You have seasons in life. You have seasons where, you know what, for this period of time, I'm going to sacrifice. I'm going to, I don't know, Airbnb our house when we're away. I am going to forgo one car for this summer, whatever it is. There are time periods where you do sacrifice in pursuit of a goal, and you're all in on it together. You and your husband, your partner, your friends, your kids.
Yeah.
And then there are other times where we're like, you know what, we need more money to do this. We want to spend on a vacation because blank, 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 or so-and-so is getting married in Hawaii and we're all going to go support her, whatever it is. But it's just not all the time. You don't sacrifice all the time, but you don't go on a spending spree all the time. And also, when I say having a spending account, that's the result of you opening your closet, to use your metaphor, and doing the work. You opening your closet and saying, okay, this is how much money comes in. I have a surplus. Yay, surplus. I'm going to use, yes, that's amazing. Some of that surplus is going to go to my priorities, things that I've decided that are important to me. So maybe some far off financial goals. And then some of this surplus is going to go to having a good time.
Okay. When we're thinking about, like, let's just say we get a weekly paycheck and it's, I don't even know. Let's just say it's $1,000 for a round number. So we're going to get a paycheck a week for $1,000. Is it important for us to, before we know what we're doing with that $1,000, is it important to have financial goals? Is that what we want? Financial goals for the future? Are we able to figure out how to spend or save it if we don't have goals?
So that $1,000, I like that we're just using a random because it's just easy peasy. But your $1,000, you want to see what you're spending on that helps you survive, right? Okay. So having goals is fantastic, but how much left over do you have for those goals? So the first thing that I would do is to turn on the lights and go through your closet, is to figure out, okay, this is the most overwhelming part that people are like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to see where my money is going.
It honestly gives me heart palpitations. Like you're talking about it and I'm like, okay, let's just go to the next part.
I know,
let's go to the next
but
part.
You know what? Honestly, it's a fantastic exercise, especially if you haven't done it recently or at all, because we change. Our spending habits, they change over. My spending habits change from summer to Christmas, right? Or summer to fall. It's just, they're just different. And so you just want to get a normal month and take a look at that month. So open up your bank statements. It's all on your phone, right? So just pull up your phone, your bank app, and go through your credit card statements and your bank statements. And if you need a spreadsheet, you can download one. I actually still use paper and pen. Sometimes I just sort of create boxes of, this is what I spent on, like household stuff, our insurance, our lights, to keep our lights on, to eat indoors, our grocery bills. And then I have a restaurant category. Then I have like a shopping category. And I have like, aesthetics category, whatever it is, kids camp category. And you just sort of break down and see where your money is going. And I know that sounds, just like tedious.
I would imagine it would be pretty eye-opening though.
It is incredible. It is an incredible, empowering thing. Because if you're doing anything in life, if you're building a business and you're starting, you need to take inventory. If you are going to go on a fitness journey, how much do you weigh? How many calories are you currently eating? How much you need to take stock to figure out where you stand. And so if you do this, I promise that this exercise, it doesn't have to be laborious. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to, just get a general idea. Get a general idea. And then you can decide, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I was spending that much money on X. I don't actually need that. Or, oh shoot, I downloaded a bunch of apps last year.
The apps,
and I'm paying monthly fees for this stupid face whatever app, and I forgot that I use it. Cancel it. It's a great way to do inventory where you're thinking, oh shoot, when you're doing your closet, you're like, I haven't worn this in 3 years. I don't need this anymore. And so you need to be doing that with your finances, also to look for errors, right? To look for, oh, there's a double charge here. I didn't realize that, because you have a certain time period of credit card. Contact your credit card company. So please,
do we need to have a financial expert or planner helping us, or can we do it? Like, are there apps people can use that you like to do that might make them?
There are many, many apps. Some of them are paid for. Some of them are not. Okay. If you want to the simplest way too is, your bank also is doing this. Your bank, if you open your bank app, they often categorize things for you. They've got integrated AI into these systems where they're saying a couple of bills are coming up. This is likely what you're going to be paying in the next little bit. Or they'll say, hey, you seem to be over your restaurant budget, and you can set budgets on your bank app. So at the very least,
you can put a budget on your bank app?
Look into it. Every financial institution is going to have different things. And so my financial institution on my bank allows me to set a limit on something, or to give me a target if I want to spend around this much money. And so you can do that with technology. If that seems like overwhelming, just do it with a paper and a pen. Just do it. Just do wants, like needs and wants. Just do that. This is what I spend on to survive, and just sort of general categories, and write them down. And then this is what I've been spending on food, shopping, and fun. Just whatever it is, just to give yourself an idea. And then the next time you want to try it again, you can be a little bit more tactical. You can get a little bit more into the nitty gritty of things, but it's just to see. And it's great. Most of the time in a household, it's the women who do this, because the women are the ones often doing the majority of any kind of housework. So they're keeping stock of the laundry detergent and whether or not diapers need to be refilled, or, groceries, that kind of thing. And so that kind of budgeting, you're very used to doing that. So this is just sort of extending it beyond, and it's important to do. It's important for you to know, because a lot of it is so, especially with TAP and online buying, a lot of it is like, I have no idea. I have no
Yeah.
idea where the money is going. And so for you
Yeah,
to make
I
better
agree.
choices,
I agree on
it's
the online
look,
buying.
right?
Yes.
Just
I have a
look,
bad habit
have
of
a
that.
peek, have a peek.
Yeah.
Jen, have a peek.
Well, and also, I will tell you too, there have been times if I get up really, so I get up really early in my house. And so sometimes if it's like 5 or 5:30 and I'm not even half awake and I'm scrolling my phone, I'm like, oh, I definitely need that. I don't even remember I bought it. It shows up at the door and I'm like, what, who bought this? I don't need this. I mean, I will always return it, but it just kind of is like, I need to stop. I do.
I
And I
sleep with
liked your
my phone
analogy
away.
of,
Like I don't, like my phone has to be plugged in another room at night because I will do that too.
so I appreciate that. And I've had a lot of people say that. This is my thing. When my kids went to college, I just felt like I could get a landline, but I just felt like, this is what I tell myself. They never have called me at 2 a.m, but I just always feel like I have to have it next to me just in case.
Or how about just across the room? Maybe, just out of reach. So you got to get out of bed to do. You just need to build in those extra things to outsmart yourself. And everyone's going to be different. So you have to ask yourself, what were the last 3 unplanned purchases that I made? Why did I make them? How did I feel about it? Did I do it because it was after work and I was stressed and I needed some sort of outlet? Did I do it because I thought that, it would improve my sense of self-worth somehow? I needed a new this because I was going to a new luncheon and I wanted to look a certain way. It's to ask, why do you do that? And then figure out, how do I actually get to the root of that? If it's because of stress, maybe I should schedule a walk with a friend after work to avoid that.
Well, I like how you said when you go to spend money, instead of just thinking, because it's true, you're like, okay, should I spend $40 on this? I don't know. Sure.
Yes,
why not?
the answer is yes. Yes.
Right.
But
if instead I say, could I spend $40 on something better?
Else. Yes.
Something else.
Because it's a finite resource,
like
right?
That.
We just can't. It's a choice. When you say yes to something, you say no to something else.
Yeah. You talk about in your book 3 things to spend money on: experiences, time savers, and anticipations, which I thought, are those the things you're saying you should spend your money on, or people tend to spend their money on?
So whenever I say, okay, I wrote a book about happiness and about money, and people say, Melissa, everyone is different. How can you tell me that my shoes don't make me happy? And I'm telling you, if your shoes make you happy, then have a line in your budget to buy shoes. Like that's for you to decide. Okay. This is your life. Money is neutral. Money is just a tool. You just use it to do whatever you want. No one can tell you if something is good or bad. I mean, there are healthier things to do with your money and maybe unhealthier things to do with money when you look at your finances as a whole. But this is for you to figure out, to decide, to look at your closet and organize it whatever way you want. However, according to research, there are some things that you can buy to be happier. And this is, I'm just according to science. And those are 3 things. So the first thing is experiences. Experiences bond you to other people, whereas when you buy a material good, it's usually enjoyed alone. People who spend money on experiences, they experience more happiness. This is according to research. So for example, when happy people, when they get a windfall of cash, they spend 40% of it on experiences. You learn new skills through experiences. There's stories, there's goodwill, there's memories. It's fantastic. The other thing is
the memory.
Time savers. People who save, people who value money over time, they are happier. And you can actually make yourself happier, according to science, by starting to value time over money. So that can take the form of, paying for somebody to do some housework, or paying for somebody to do some of your yard work. And this is so important, especially for women who, even in so-called egalitarian marriages where they where both parties, bring in equal amounts of income, the women still do 50% more of housework. And so somehow our time is less valuable. Somehow, in traditional societies, we still have traditional ideas in our head of valuing women's work and quotations. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm doing quotations, versus men's work. Men will spend more time doing leisure work, whereas women will spend obviously more time with caregiving. And so buying yourself time is a beautiful form of valuing yourself, of self-care, of creating more space for you, which I feel like more women need especially to be happier. And so, and also spending a lot of time to save a little bit of money is probably not worthwhile. So if you're driving around to save a few cents on gas, if you are waiting in line to get a free scarf that you'll never wear, not a valuable use of your time if you put, if you start to value your time. And finally, anticipation. I think we think of the event as, okay, let's just get it and we'll be happy when we get it. But so much of experience involves the before and the after.
Yes.
And so people are happier before a vacation than they are after a vacation, right? So you want to spend your money on something for the future. So pay for something, pay for a spa vacation with your friends or like a spa weekend with the girls, and then everybody talk about it for the next 4 weeks so that you're all enjoying in that happiness ahead of time.
I like that. Okay. Do you recommend opening up like your own, a separate bank account for things like that, for travel or experiences? Is that in your spend? Is that in your shoe budget?
Oh, I have a million bank accounts. I open a lot of bank accounts and they have different purposes.
Oh, they do? Okay.
I guess because I am a checklist person. I like to be organized. I like to see different pots of money for things. And so, like, for example, I knew my best friend was getting married and I knew I wanted a certain amount of money to spend for her wedding, for her bachelorette, to help treat her for her shower and throw a fabulous party for her and the girls. And so I started saving just a little bit a year out, a little bit every month. And that was helpful. I mean, there's lots of ways people can save for little things and engage your family in that. I mean, you could do it in jars. You can do it in envelopes. You can do it in anything. And
cash.
Okay. And I like what you said about the labeling, because so much of finances is mental. And so if you label something as like emergency fund, it seems kind of scary. And if that's stressful to you, name it something else.
Yeah.
Name it like if you have a pet fund, name it after your dog's name. Your so-and-so's like Scooters.
Well, and there's something nice,
fund.
I think, about having things. It's kind of like when you label, home organization is such a huge thing with bins and labels and all that kind of stuff. And so maybe having that on your bank app to see, you're differently broken down with the title might make you more.
You can do that too.
Doesn't seem as scary
and fun. Yeah. And you're like on a journey for a goal. It's going to be great.
Great. Okay. On the goal. One of the huge questions, probably the biggest question, was about debt when I asked people to send in their finance questions. It seems like there are so many just opinions and options, credit card companies and things that come in the mail, Instagram even, whether we should, I follow one very popular financial investor here in town who is no credit card, no debt, no nothing. Everything is in cash. And then you read another book we read. My husband read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it's all about, your assets and that you want to have debt and you want to have a credit card. You don't want to just waste all your cash on a car, things like that. So it's like, and then I'd say to him, well, what about what this guy said about all cash? And then you just, again, you kind of go, oh, forget it. It's too much. So if someone is worried about debt, is there, what road should we be taking for credit cards? Is there such a thing as too much debt?
Oh my gosh, that's so much to unpack. Just listening to you talk, my brain exploded.
I know.
You know what?
Well, and imagine how the rest of us feel. This is
it's also because there's so much I want to say. There's so much I want to say.
Okay,
I want people to be compassionate with themselves. I think there's a lot of shaming and blaming in previous generations with personal finance. People just sort of pointing at them and say, "You're doing everything wrong. What is wrong with you? You're a money moron." But we're human, we're fallible, we make mistakes. The only thing we can do, there's no point in looking back. The point is to look forward. And there are some things you can do. Debt is extremely stressful. And I think we've become very comfortable with, especially when interest rates were so low, with borrowing to, renovate the kitchen or whatever it was. And now that interest rates have climbed, people are feeling very, very stretched. And we totally underestimate how stressful debt is. Getting into debt beyond means of repayment in a list of 56 of life's most stressful events. It's more stressful than a period of homelessness, more stressful than your spouse cheating on you, or problems with your boss. It ranks number 5. Getting into debt beyond
Wow.
means of repayment is like the 5th most stressful thing that people have said that they encounter. And to honor that, to say like, this is a stressful thing. And so when you said, when you prefaced your question with the discussion about debt, even I felt it. I was like, oh gosh, it's a lot to think about. And personal finance is personal. And so I can't give you an advice on whether you should have a credit card or not have a credit card. I think everybody needs a credit card because in this day and age, you need it for stuff. It's not the credit card. The credit card, again, is a tool. It's how you use that tool. If you are someone who always carries a balance, whose credit card debt just never gets down to 0, or you even have, you forget to pay the minimum balance and it is messing up your credit score, then I would give you different advice versus somebody who uses a credit card usefully and to improve their lives, which is they buy something and they pay it off at the end of the month, or they have a plan to pay off their credit card within, say, 3 months, and avoid the fact that they're, paying 20% in interest on whatever it is that they were buying. If you're paying it off every month, you can get great points and bonuses and, loyalty programs for travel or whatnot. And what credit card is right for you is based on what you want. Do you want cash back? Do you want travel points because you travel a lot? Or do you want gift cards or whatever it is, right? This is very, very personal. However, if your debt is out of control, if you feel like you just can't tackle it, it does require some strategy and sacrifice. Especially if you're getting up into the places where you have other goals, especially if you're, say, nearing retirement and you want to have more money freed up for other things, right? It's a huge burden. It's like having this albatross around your neck. And if you want to talk about it, I do have ways to tackle your debt. If that's too heavy, we can talk about something else.
Well, I was just going to say, if someone is listening right now, feeling that we were just discussing, right? Just feeling overwhelmed by debt and thinking there's no way with what I earn, I will ever get out of this. So I'm just going to ignore the phone calls. I'm going to rip up the envelope.
Yes.
And yet it is aging them rapidly because the stress is so big. Is there a way, are there programs to help people, like banks, governments? Is there somewhat, what should they be doing? Is there something?
Absolutely. There's help out there. There are nonprofit credit counseling agencies that are out there that are not just going to talk to you about your debt, but they're going to help you with their finances in general. They're going to talk you through it. They're going to coach you. They're going to support you. They're going to help you create a budget. They're going to help you consolidate some of that debt, and maybe hopefully get you, on a payment plan where you're paying a lower interest. They're going to negotiate with the creditors for you, but you do have to do the research and find a credit counseling agency that is legit, that is, shop around, make sure you read the reviews, and find somebody who will be on your team. Somebody at the bank could also be in your team. You could walk into your bank branch, and just tell them your concerns. Look, I'm concerned about this. What can we do? And maybe your bank can even help you. Maybe your bank can say, you know what? We can give you a break on the interest rate to help you do some catch up for this period of time. Or this is what we suggest. Or did you know that you can access some cheaper debt through whatever, through your house, through this? And we can try to move things around to give you some breathing room. But in that breathing room, it does require you to do some more, some work, some either reshifting of, like you said, if you don't have enough money, if you're not making enough money, then we have to look at your expenses. We have to look at maybe some extra. I know I do know people who have made sacrifices over the years, including some of my dearest friends. One of my friends had tremendous credit card debt, and she just doesn't know how she got there, and she felt ashamed. But when she talked to her bank, they consolidated her debt into a lower payment, and then she decided, I'm not going to use that credit card anymore. I am because it just means that I'm going to accumulate more debt because the problem is not the credit card, it's me. And she made some huge sacrifices. She just started changing her life, and she said, I'm just going to do this until my credit card is paid off. And some of those habits did stick. And then I had another friend who said, we're in trouble. We have to actually forego a car. So they had 2 cars and they went down to 1 car. They have 2 kids. It was a harrowing summer of shuffling everybody around to soccer, to this, to that, but they figured it out, and they were able to get out of a financial hole. And then finally, I had another friend who actually decided to move back in with her parents. She's in her late 30s. She was single, just so that she could rent out her apartment to make some money. So it doesn't sound good. You're like, oh man, I gotta do these things. But if you are in a hole and you have to do something, get some help and get ideas, look to see what you can do. It might require some big changes, but you don't have to stay in the hole.
Why do you think people feel such shame around finances or bad financial decisions or debt?
I think that's normal, especially in our society where we equate money with success, with value, with our worth. If you fail at money, you think about, I often ask people, how did your parents talk about money? How did your parents talk about so-called rich people? I did my air quotes there, or, so-called poor people, whatever it is. How did they talk about it? How, that judgment is passed on to you. Probably you're passing it on to your family. Those ideas about money informs how you behave with money, and getting an idea of maybe what some of those money scripts are that you've had your whole life can be really eye-opening. Especially if you do feel a lot of shame, especially if you do feel a lot of stress. You're not in isolation. I think that's come from somewhere.
Would you say though, if that person was listening, that they would be fine to walk into, they don't have to hire a financial advisor. They could go into their bank, like their bank has heard it all. They don't have to feel ashamed walking into a bank and asking for help.
The bank works for you. The people who you see work for you. They make money off of your money. So they're not supposed to judge you. And if you find someone who is judgy, if you've come across someone who speaks in a way that you don't really understand, then find someone else. I would ask for someone else. I would ask the manager for a new person. I would walk out of that branch and just walk into a different branch.
To a different, there's lots of branches.
That's what I do when I'm talking to customer service. If I call anyone trying to negotiate a better deal for my insurance rate or for anyone, or if I call my credit card company or my phone company and I'm talking to someone and they are mildly unhelpful, I thank them for their time. I hang up and I call again. Sometimes I have to wait on hold, but I get somebody else. And often that tactic has served me in saving money because I get somebody who's a little bit more helpful.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, a lot of the listeners are in the age group where they are either currently or getting ready to send their kids to university, college, post-secondary education. And again, now I know in Canada, post-secondary is a rule of thumb, much less expensive per year than it is in the United States. Here, for sure, people, there's always the question, do I go into debt? Do I take out these student loans? I mean, I have a friend, I think she's 50, just finished paying off her husband's student loan. I mean, it just is insane. So then, I've heard people say, don't ever go into debt to get yourself through college. You don't want to come out on the other side with all this debt. But then you have the other people who are like, well, what are you going to do if you don't have the skills that you got in post-secondary? What's your thoughts on how to pay for college? Tell us all how to pay for college, please.
That's a huge feat. Especially if you don't have a lot of time. If this is something, if you're just starting to have kids and something that you think is important for your family, for you to support your kids through your education, there are options, right? You've got, you've got your 529 plan in the US, you have your RESP in Canada, which gives you a 20% top up to $500 a year per kid per plan. And so there are options because those are tax efficient savings vehicles for investing your money in. However, you're talking about some of your listeners are the kids are going off to, university or college or trade school in, a couple years. It's a lot less time for your money to grow. You can still put your money into these vehicles, especially in Canada, to get that free money from the company or from the government. That is so important. You can still do that. And in the States, you can, contributing to a 429 plan, there's still benefits. There's some states offer tax deductions and credits for contributions. So there's still value in doing that. But should you take out a loan, a massive loan to go to school? I believe very strongly in the value of education, especially for people who have a general idea of where they want to head, right? If you have a discussion with your young person, you're like, I know it's hard to know when you're 18 years old what you're going to do for the rest of your life, but to involve them in this conversation of, this is going to be expensive and we don't want to take out the maximum amount of money we need, and then I know a friend, oh my goodness, I had a friend who did spend some of her student loan money on vacations. And then you're paying that back for the rest of your life.
For the rest of your life, paying back that vacation.
Talking to your kid about, this is a large amount of money that we are going to be borrowing. So we need to be very smart with how much we use and how strict we are, I suppose, how disciplined we are to use that money, and to look at for other avenues. There are, if you're thinking, I don't want to take out all this money, is there anything? Can you look for scholarships? Can you look for grants? Can you apply to anything and absolutely everything? Some employers actually have employee benefits, education benefits, such as tuition to assistance, or I was just talking to a physiotherapist who said that his company had some benefits, had some support that they were giving if you had a kid who was pursuing a similar field. They're already trying to prime the next group, and so looking for any ways to get that free money is paramount. But also, sometimes a loan is unavoidable, right? Sometimes education is expensive. And sometimes you need to go and pursue that and take it. But having a conversation with your kiddos about borrowing is so important. But yes, again, that sacrifice piece, right? If there's not enough money for the things that you want, then it has to come from somewhere.
Okay. Let's talk about women and finances, because like I said, pretty much everybody listening will be a woman. There was an overwhelming response as well from women, some of them who said that they had gotten divorced and are navigating being alone financially. Yep. But also in any marriage, in any relationship, it's like maybe one person doesn't work at all and has chosen to stay at home with the kids. Maybe they both work and one makes significantly more than the other. I would imagine that can just be a recipe for disaster, like balancing the finances, that kind of power struggle of, does the person that make more get the say in finances? Yep. So what's the best way, even just to go into a relationship, or if you've already been in a relationship and feel like you don't know, enough about your finances, should both people be equally involved in finance management, or is it fine for one person to maybe feel like they know more and do more? Not like your situation where you're a financial expert, but for two people who just don't know.
Even in my household, where I am someone who is a financial literacy champion, there is imbalance. And I blame many factors, including myself, but I blame, again, we're in a society where we've empowered men to prize their time and their role as provider, as well as the role of studies have shown that men mostly take on the task of investing long-term goals, whereas women do sort of the nitty-gritty, the budgeting for day-to-day, the groceries, those kinds of things. And And that comes at a disadvantage to us. It comes at a disadvantage to women because it obviously gives us less options. There are many, many, many statistics and research about how many women get stuck in relationships because they feel disempowered when it comes to money. And so,
Yeah.
yes, women need their own access to money, or at the least, they need to understand what's happening with the finances in their house. Regardless if you don't manage the money or the long-term investments, when you, if and when you decide to leave that union, you are entitled to half of it. So it is yours. It's yours. So ask.
You have to know it's there. Yeah, you have to know it's there.
What is there? How do you get it? How does it work? How does the flow of money work? How many accounts do you have? Do you know the passwords for the accounts? Are they joint?
Yes.
Are they joint? Are they not?
Yeah.
Because even in my household, my finances are complicated because my husband and I, we operate under a sort of an umbrella corporation, and we have various companies and holding companies and trusts, and the money flows in a certain way from his money and my money. And even I have to remind myself, I don't actually know some of the things that are happening on that side of the umbrella, which is not to my advantage. Absolutely not to my advantage.
Yeah.
And I have run into situations where I've gone into the bank and I've asked for something and they would say, your name's not on this. And then I'd have to go back and talk to my husband. And I'm so mad because I was like, what happened here when we were doing the corporate structure? What's going on? Because
and then they're like, well, he has to actually put your name on the
there are things like that have come up that I run into it and I got to fix it or this and that. Because I also have family members who their husbands passed away suddenly. And they were so lost. Yeah. They were just so
let's talk about that
lost.
For a second.
They just didn't know what was happening.
Because nobody likes to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. They were so overwhelmed. And I mean, you don't have to go to your husband and say to him something like, or your partner or your common law spouse and say, I think we might get a divorce and I need some more information. You can also say, I'm trying to become more involved and more empowered when it comes to my money. And I would love to sit down and just sort of go through this. Or my husband and I, we have our net worth. We calculate our net worth as a household quarterly. And so every 3 months we sit down and we look at how much we have and how much our assets have accumulated or what are in our debts. And we were trying to make sure that the number is going up. Anybody can accumulate wealth, anybody, but you do have to calculate. That's by doing your homework, right? That's by sitting down and figuring out all of your assets minus your debts. And then that number is your net worth.
That's your net worth. All of your assets minus your debts is your
You can choose to use your house or not. I don't use my house because then house prices can change and this and that. But you want to see that number going up. As you pay down debt, that number will go up.
So what are you using in your assets then? What are you putting in that?
We use our investments. We use our retirement accounts.
Okay.
The car is usually debt. It's usually you're paying that off. Or if you own the car, you're using it as, well, how much would I get? If I died tomorrow, how much would I get? But it's a deteriorating asset. So I don't really use it as an asset. I use it more as a liability.
Why don't you use your house?
Why don't I use my house?
Why would you not use your house?
Because the net worth is
as an asset.
The net worth is just a number. It's just a number for you to gauge whether you are building wealth, right? You're not showing it to anyone. It doesn't really, it could be, it's just something for you to benchmark how you are doing with your money. So if you use your house, great. Use your house. That's fine. Use one figure and have an idea of, you talk to your real estate agents or in the area and you see how much that house has gone up in value every year, and try to keep that consistent. You can include that. The reason why we don't include it in ours is just because in my market, specifically where we were, housing prices had this tremendous boom in, just at the tail end of the pandemic. And it artificially inflated all of our net worth numbers, right? Because we're like, whoa, look at our house is worth so much. Awesome.
Everybody thought they were so rich.
We're doing great. And then housing prices in our area, just because interest rates went up, they just fell like they came down so much. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, what happened to our net worth? So we just decided.
I'm not worth as much as I thought I was.
Yeah, we just decided
that's a smart idea.
This is not actually an effective benchmark for us. So what we're using instead is our investments, how much we're putting into savings, because that obviously you have control over that, right? We have control how much money is going into our savings account. You can quantify if you're doing good work or not good work. And yes, so that's what we've been doing. And you can talk to your husband about that, talk to your partner about that. Say, we should be doing this. Let's do this together. I want more involvement. I want to find out more. And that also plays into the idea of, we're not saying, in case you die, I need to know where things are. But the more you get involved, the more you know where things are.
I actually did say that. I say that often. Yeah. I mean,
my husband doesn't like the death talk. So if I bring it up, he just shuts down.
No, he doesn't like it either. It's like, this is a terrible conversation. And I'm like, I understand that. So just have it with me quickly.
I actually did that with my dad when I went to visit him out of province a couple of weeks ago. I said, hey, Dad, I was just wondering, where do you keep all of your documents? Where do you keep all of your documents?
Yeah, my parents do that with me. I don't like the conversation.
Yes, and I had to ask him, and he was just showing me where they were and what was in them. And I didn't know. And so even asking like your frequent flyer points, your accounts, there's so many things that you would have to look into. And so having a master list, I have a master list for my husband because I'm very organized. He does not have a master list of anything ever, has never done that.
Like your passwords and stuff, you mean?
I have a master list of basically all of my accounts, the associated numbers that go, and the passwords I just keep separate because that's just a security thing. Yeah. But yes, I do.
Okay. Let's talk about saving for a minute, because that was another big question I know it's a very general question, and surely there's not just one answer, but the question was, how much should we be saving? And I don't know if that's a weekly, monthly, or yearly thing. Is there a general rule of thumb? Is it an age thing?
I love when people ask this question because everyone wants to know, because you want finances to be simple. You want finances to be, you want to know where you're on track, right? You want to know, and there are so many benchmarks, so many rules of thumb that come out because banks are trying to get your money and they want to give you a rule of thumb. And also, financial experts over time have given you rules of thumb because they're snappier and they are gender neutral, so they don't take into account whether you're a woman and you've taken time off work to build a family or to take care of your family versus building your career. It doesn't take into account whether you are a person of color and might be disadvantaged in certain ways when it comes to finances. So I don't like to share rules of thumb. I know that doesn't help you in your question because you're like, how much should I be saving right now? And because there are so many, some people say, try the 50-30-20 rule where you spend 50% on your fixed expenses, your needs, and then 30% on your wants, and then just 20% for saving. And then you break that 20% out into certain things, like 15% retirement, 5% for emergencies, whatever it is. See, people like those things. People like saying, oh, you need to have like exactly your salary saved for retirement by the age of 30. People love that stuff, but it is absolutely not effective for everyone. How can I say that you need to adhere to this 50-30-20 rule where I have no idea how much money you make? I don't know where you live. I don't know what you've been through in your life, whether you take care of elderly parents, whether you are giving your friends whether you're giving your children a monetary gift to help them buy their first home. I don't know what your goals are, so I don't want to say. I can tell you that there are studies that have come out. So in the States, there was one study that came out that said, if people when in their mid 30s started saving 15% of their gross annual income, they could retire by the age of 65. They would have a modest amount along with government benefits. However, if they waited until they were 45, they could not save 15%. They had to save 27% of their gross annual income to be able to retire at 65. And I don't use those figures, 15, 27%, as any kind of guide for my own life. But what I do take away from that study is that the later you start to save for retirement, the more you have to start saving, the more money you have to put away.
Is there a way to know how much you need for retirement? I mean, it's hard because, let's be honest, you don't know how long you might retire and die 1 year later. You might retire and live till you're 100. So I think that's other people's other issue is, how do I know how much I need to be saving?
There are 1,000 online calculators that I suggest everybody play with. Just play with them for fun. See how it goes. So one rule of thumb is that your expenses are going to be, I don't know, you need like 70% of your current expenses. So when you do your inventory of your closet, to go back to our beginning of our conversation, you do your budget. So you look at how much money is going out right now and what you're spending on. And then you basically say, I'm going to use 70% of that in retirement. That's how much money you're going to be needing year to year. And if you're not working anymore, then that money has to come from somewhere. And so doing the calculations online, people have, there's like government benefit calculators as well that show how much money comes from them and then what you need to recoup on your own. And then you can project. You can say, how about till I'm 80? How about till I'm 90? It's fun to do those. It's also fun to go into your bank and say that, hey, I would love for you.
And they can help you?
Absolutely. I would love for you to, I would love a financial plan to see how much money I'll have in retirement and how much money I will need. They will try to sell you things. And so you just pay attention to what you buy, what you invest in. You can engage a financial planner. You interview at least 3. You get, reviews from friends and family and find somebody that you trust and find out the most important question you'll ask them is how are you paid? How are you paid? Are you paid by the things that I buy? So if I purchase life insurance with you, if I purchase investments, so I purchase mutual funds, which is kind of an investment fund made up of like a million different investments or whatever it is inside of a basket. Are you paid from that, like a commission? Or are you paid from me giving you a flat fee? Are you paid by the hour? So for you to understand that really is important, and that they can also help you create that plan. So you have less, more peace of mind. You have an idea of where you stand. And they will ask you for a net worth calculation. They will ask you for a general budget. So the things that I talked about already are things that you're probably going to have to do if you do engage a professional. So you can actually start to do those on your own.
Yeah, go ahead and
do that. Go ahead. It's great. It's great for your general knowledge.
Well, speaking of saving for retirement, that was another big question. And you have a chapter in your book, which I told you that I loved. It was called The Silver Fox, which is you in retirement and the way you're supposed to think about yourself. And you said something which I thought was really interesting was that a lot of times people resist saving money because they just look at it like they're just giving money to a stranger versus investing in themselves in the future. So if you can visualize yourself at retirement as the silver fox, if you can visualize what you want your life to look like, it's a much easier thing to part with your money into this savings account when you're like, I'm giving it to my future self versus, because it's true, sometimes a savings account just feels like it's sitting there not doing anything, which I loved. I loved when you said that, because I think that is why a lot of people are resistant maybe of saving
there's
money.
Lots of research that shows, I want to, when I picture my future life, I want to be like Cher. I want to be 70 years old and sparkly sequin undies, dancing on stage with hot guys. Yeah. And so I have to save for that. I have to save for that life, because the choices that I make now affect all the opportunities and choices that I'll have in the future. And it's not easy to do, because lots of research shows there's a hilarious studies that have been done where there's this option to eat this gross concoction of like ketchup and soy sauce and something or other. And we just say, I don't want to eat it now. Give it to our future selves. And they compare that to like giving it to a stranger, because we are disassociated from our future selves, right? Like our future self is just like, I don't know who that person is. And so that's why those TikTok apps where you age yourself and look at yourself are so fun. And they've done that. They've done experiments where you look at your aged version of yourself and see how much money you'll put aside for savings, and you'll put more. And so I would suggest that everybody listening, do an exercise. That exercise is to close your eyes and to picture yourself in the future. You know, what do you look like? Just picture yourself. Is it 20 years from now? Is it 10 years from now? Is it 50 years from now? What are you wearing? Where are you? Are you happy? Are you smiling? And then tell your future self something that they need to hear, something important. And then have your future self say something back to you. And to do that exercise, to connect with your future self, and then to make choices afterwards in honor of this person who is you, who also deserves to be happy. And when I do that exercise at women's conferences, you know, when I speak, and there's, 500 women in the room and they're all with their hands over their hearts, their eyes are all closed and they open their eyes. Some of them are so teary. And I hear, like, I'm looking at them when I do this exercise, and they say the most beautiful, moving things. Like they say, I love you. I promise I will take care of you. You are so deserving of happiness, and I will give it to you.
I love that. Wow. And I think so many times women get to that stage in life and they've done so much of just taking care of everybody else and taking care of their families, and they kind of forget that at one point they were supposed to invest in taking care of themselves in the future, because you also don't want to be a burden to your children when you're grown and all of a sudden you're not able to work anymore, but oops, I forgot to save any money, and now I don't know who's going to take care of me.
Right. You put your own mask on, right? Is that that's what we always say? You put your own mask on.
Oxygen mask on, yeah. What would you say to the woman who is over 50 and for any given reason, whether she's married, whether she's not, whether she's widowed, has not saved for retirement and is in a panic? Because those were some of the questions that I got. And, they're not 20 years old. They don't feel like they can go and get a job. I mean, what is the course of action for them going forward? Is it too late to start saving for retirement at 50 if you're working?
It is never too late. It is never too late to start taking care of yourself the way that you deserve. I feel very deeply that comment that you made earlier, that we spend our lives as caregivers, as not being a burden, as wanting to people please. Yeah. I totally understand that. But, these final years, these important years that you have, this is for you. This time is for you, so that you will have options when you are in a place where you may not want to work, or you may not be able to work. That's the thing. I think we think sometimes, I'm just going to work longer. And hopefully you can. I hope that for everybody, that they find things that are fulfilling to them, that they find work, that they find, even if it's volunteer work. But the reality is that people will spend a lot of money on healthcare. People can live longer, but they don't always live well. And you have to prepare for that. So if you do have some time right now, if you still have, say 15, 20 years out, that's still a lot of time. But you do have to make choices that are in service of you. That means more money needs to go to you and to your savings account, to your high interest savings account, to your investments. And be involved in what kind of investments. Like, talk to your advisor, if you are choosing one, about what your needs are. Talk to them about how much do I need? How long do I have to work? What are my options here? If you feel like you can't work the same, then there doesn't have to be the path that you're on doesn't have to be the path that you stay on. You can look for something different. So I know a lot of women who are in their 50s, and some of them are in their prime earning years. So they're making more money than they ever have been before. but they're also spending more money than they ever have been before. And it requires some hard decisions for them because they're trying to do some catch up with retirement. But meanwhile, I have other women who are in a period, a season of their life where they want to change. They don't want to do the same career anymore. They want something else, or their bodies are not allowing. They don't feel the same. They don't want to do the hustle. They're looking for different options. But the thing is that they're just looking for a different path. And I'm confident, one of my dear friends is looking, and she's so talented. She has so many skills. Is just trying to find a new path, a new way, whether that's through the gig economy, whether that's trying to monetize some of her hobbies, whether that's, freelancing or consulting or engaging more with social media and looking for ways for sponsorships to improve her brand. Many options out there. So you do have time. I would say don't panic. You do have time, but it does require a hard conversation with yourself to be like, no, I really need to start looking after me.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like my biggest takeaways from this conversation is number one is, that saving, that the saving is it's not a punishment. It's not saying you can't have this. It's an investment in nobody else but yourself and maybe your grandkids or whatever you find valuable. But then also, about budgeting and getting really clear with what you're doing every month. And honestly, I'm speaking to myself, if you're resistant to doing that, that's probably a problem. That's probably why you should be doing that, is taking a closer look. But one of the things too, you had said, I don't know if I touched on it here, but I read it in your book on budgeting, was that you shouldn't look at it as a negative. Like it's not a punishment. I can't remember what you said, something about like it's an investment in your goals. Budgeting is an investment in your life. And so when you look at it from a positive perspective, I think it's easier to tackle. Right. It made me feel better.
Good. I'm glad. You know what? I think of budgeting I think of it as incredibly empowering because it's purposeful. So much of our lives are lived in this rat race. You don't often think about your day to day and things don't have a lot of meaning. But when you budget, and people hear that word, they're like, oh, but it's not even that. Yeah. When you just create a plan for your money, that's what that is. When you look at your money, it is incorporating a level of mindfulness and meaningfulness to your life that can be really beautiful. It can be really beautiful. You're actually assigning meaning to your money that you work so hard for, right? We toil, we sacrifice, we put so much effort and emphasis on our money, then equal amounts of energy should be put into the opposite, into the sort of the output, right? We put all this focus on trying to accumulate, and then, okay, well, let's put that effort into, well, what do you want it to do for you? Where do you want it to go?
Yeah. I love that. Well, I can't thank you enough for being here today. And I really think that this conversation is going to be so helpful to women, and really just not look at money and budgeting and saving and retirement as this like kind of pain in your side. And really it should be part of you. Like it's part of your goal, and it doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be a punishment. So I thank you for that. And Happy Go Money is your book. Is there anywhere else people can find you? You want to share your Instagram or anything else you've got coming up?
I am only able to manage one social media account.
That's
for
fine.
my mental health with two small boys.
That's all you need.
And it's on Instagram. So you can find me at Leong, Lisleong. Okay. And I'm always happy to chat with people. So if people connect, I'd love to talk to you about money.
Okay, good. And you're often on the social, just giving your advice on, pretty much anything to do with money,
yes,
right?
I'm on the social. I've been on the Drew Barrymore show a few times. And so I just like to go around and
I watched that clip. Yes,
talk to people about money wherever I can. And to encourage people to talk about their own money and money in general with each other. So please, before the end of the day, everybody listening, have one money conversation with someone.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I have definitely had mine for the day. I've had enough for one day.
Yes. High five. I got you covered. I got you.
High five. All right. Well, thank you so much. Maybe we'll have you back again one day.
I would love that. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.